provide cleaner air around our buses, schools, and neighborhoods. This proposal would replace 25 diesel buses with 25 electrical buses that could reduce pollution. We also recognize the question had been raised about this battery safety and emergency response. Those concerns deserve special attention. First Student has reported that it has not experienced an electrical battery bus fire among the nearly 500 electrical school buses it has operated. The batteries and battery compartments are crash tested, and First Student provides specialized training for drivers, dispatchers, maintenance technicians, and first responders. The proposed safety measures include increased space between buses, an electric bus only site, fire detection and site monitoring systems, appropriate safety equipment, and continued training for local emergency responders. Driver training would address charging safety inspections, regenerative braking, inclement weather, and emergency procedures. These safeguards have been strengthened through the questions and recommendations raised by the planning board and our local fire department. This is a clear example of collaboration of making this project safer. The second important consideration is the fiscal responsibility to our taxpayers. In October of 2022, the Rondout Valley Central School District was awarded a $10 million grant through the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Clean School Bus Program. This funding supports the deployment of 25 Type C electrical school buses with necessary charging infrastructure. This award gives our community the opportunity to introduce new technology without asking local taxpayers to assume the significant upfront cost through a local tax levy or bond. That point is especially important as New York State continues to move school districts and transportation providers to zero emissions school bus fleets. By using federal funding that has already been secured, we can begin preparing for that transition now rather than placing a much larger financial burden on our community later. The first round of EPA funding was especially valuable. Funding levels have decreased in later rounds, and the Rondout Valley has been designated as a non-priority district, making us eligible for substantially less support. If the current award is surrendered, there's no guarantee that Rondout Valley will probably have this funding in the future. The EPA grant also identifies the potential for substantial long-term savings in fuel and maintenance costs over the estimated 12-year life of the buses. While actual savings will depend on the operating conditions and energy costs, electric buses have fewer moving parts and do not rely on diesel fuel, creating an opportunity for lower operating expenses over time. Accepting that nearly $10 million in outside funding reduces future operating costs and preparing for the state's transition while the funding is available reflects responsibility of financial planning. This is not simply an environmental decision, it's also a fiscal decision on behalf of our taxpayers. Third, and perhaps the most meaningful part of this project, is the community partnership. No organization can move a project of this size forward alone. The district needs the expertise and oversight of the planning board. We need the operational experience of First Student, the technical guidance of Labella, and the experience of Ulster County, and the knowledge and commitment of our local fire department and emergency responders. The site visits, public discussions, technical reviews, and conversations among these partners have helped identify concerns and improve the proposal. This project is strong because people were willing to ask difficult questions, listen carefully, and work together. Collaboration does not mean that everyone agrees immediately. It means that we respect each other's responsibilities, share information openly, and remain committed to finding a safe and responsible path forward. This project has given us an opportunity to model that kind of leadership for our students. It shows that communities can address complicated issues through cooperation, thoughtful planning, and mutual respect. The benefits of this project extend beyond the school district. Cleaner buses means cleaner air in the neighborhoods through which they travel. Through fiscal planning, protects local taxpayers. Training and coordination strengthen our emergency preparedness. The knowledge gained through this process can also support the future projects in our region. When our schools, town leaders, and county offices, transportation professionals, and technical experts and emergency responders work together, the entire community benefits. On behalf of the Rondout Valley Central School District, I again thank the planning board for the time, care, and the professionalism you have brought to this process. I also thank First Student, Labella Associates, Ulster County, the Acker Fire District, and all of the community members who have participated. We understand that a project involving new technology requires careful review. We welcome that review and remain committed to meeting all appropriate planning, zoning, operational, and safety requirements. We respectfully ask the planning board to support a safe and responsible path forward for this electric school bus project. This is an opportunity to protect the health and safety of our students, act responsibly on behalf of our taxpayers, and demonstrate what can be accomplished when the community works together toward a shared goal. Again, thank you for your time, your partnership, and your service to the town of Rochester and to the entire Rondout community. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Mr. Darrow, thank you. I can guarantee you, there's not a superintendent across the country who is an expert in electric vehicles as much as Dr. Darrow is at this point. I'm gonna cross off half of some of the comments I had because I can't do it better than Paul just did it. I will add a few things though. At this point in the process, right, even different from when we started this is not groundbreaking technology anymore. At First Student, we have the electric buses running in 12 states, Canadian province. Dr. Sparrow said at 500, we'll have 1,500. And the reason that's important is, when you do things in the beginning, there are some bugs, but we're not a believer in science projects, and I think those have all been worked out here. So as we've been working against this for the last few years, maybe an advantage is, a lot of those things probably have been smoothed out as this moves down the line. I thought it made sense to have Kevin talk a little bit about the work's been done around fire safety, and then I'll close us, and that is all.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always great to be here. At First Student, safety is number one. Nothing else is above that within our organization, because we're given a societal trust to move the children of the community that we work in. And there's nothing more serious than that. That's our generation. The people riding the buses today are going to be sitting here tomorrow, replacing all of us. So that's a critical step that we do. The questions you have asked us as we've gone through this process, we asked ourselves 6 years ago when we started this journey, because we wanted to address those. So every project we move and put forward at the 27 locations where we're currently operating school buses, the next 30 will be deploying over the next 18 months, all face the same scrutiny, all have to be done within those parameters. So first off, when we look at and limit our view to fire safety, we believe we have taken that as serious as anybody. The industry has taken it as serious as well. The bus producers use lithium iron phosphate batteries. They're more expensive and they have less range to them, but they are also significantly safer than the lithium ion batteries you're probably used to seeing in vehicles that were first introduced as EVs. These operate at lower temperatures, they have lower thermal characteristics, and they tend to last longer. But all the industry agreed, we just sacrifice some range. Lithium ion, you can get better range on, but we decided we'd sacrifice range in order to promote safety within the industry. Then within that, all the manufacturers agreed to put in safety systems to monitor these patterns and everything else on the bus. So they're constantly monitored for a number of issues that relate to them. So we will be noticed hours in advance of any issue that is going on within the program. We, on top of it at First Student, add a secondary monitoring system on top of that, our charge management software, which also monitors the buses and can detect any anomalies in charging that occur and can alert our location managers and others in the community that we feel should be a part of that process as well. Then beyond that, what you have probably seen videos of electric vehicles on fire at those curves. What you didn't see was probably the 12 to 18 hours that occurred before that, which was when the problem was first noticed. It doesn't, if you look at most of the fires that have occurred, they've been 12 to 18 hours after the incident was first detected in the battery chemistry that flames actually detected. That's why we create, not just here in Rondout Valley, but everywhere where we deploy electric school buses, an isolation zone. So if we notice there's any heat characteristics on the battery system, we move it into that exclusion zone so that if there is a fire, it is limited, no other type of buildings can catch on fire. So with all those issues, we feel we have addressed the vast majority of predictable thermal events which could occur. And on top of that, we're now at 12 million miles of operations of electric vehicles. No one else in the industry has that many miles of operations. We have not had a thermal event. My competitors that I work with, there's somebody, my competitor just like me. When I've talked to all of them, and we're now approaching close to 80 million miles of EV operations in the United States. No thermal events have occurred. So we feel it's a very safe way to transport children. We would not introduce something into a community that we didn't feel was ultimately the safer way to move forward.
And Eric, I know I'm getting, I'll close this down here. I'm seeing the winks. Again, the last thing I would add here is a little bit of what's going on with the EPA. As you can imagine, when the federal government gives you $10 million and 2 years later, you still haven't done anything with it, there are some questions here. So we are working tightly with them. We have filed for and received 6 different extensions. And we are on a weekly update cadence with them. At this point, we're hitting a little bit of that pressure point, hence a little bit of the urgency here. And we appreciate, I know you guys have both calendars around to make sure we get some time on here. But as you can imagine, that money has already kind of had to been used to, we have buses waiting, we have infrastructure waiting. So at this point, everybody's kind of waiting to see what happens here. But that's really what's been going on with the EPA on this is, right now, we, told them we'd have an answer in August and, Kevin will have to get back to them here as we come out of this section and, what is next. So at this point, we're hoping that, one, the benefits of the project, as you heard from Dr. Spadaro, the rare federal funding, I mean, not to try to be a comic here, but that's not an opportunity that comes around often. The expertise of First Student, which I hope we've proven out that we do a lot of this, so we were able to execute the project. And then the extensive risk analysis and mitigation work, which as both Kevin and Spadaro said, has really been a benefit. I'll be the first to say, we've said this to the fire department, said to the planning board, we have learned the process here through this. So I think those 4 things, we're really hoping, obviously, this gets us over the hump and we can get to a point where we can get this project going and tell the EPA we're. So Rick, I appreciate your patience. I think it's a couple minutes there, but thank you.
Oh, that's great. If the board would just bear with me for maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. For the public's purpose, the project's actually been with us since November of 24, if I recall. And numerous meetings with your team at that time. And so I guess it was about what I would call 1.5 years worth of steps and missteps and 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, or 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. But the current group of people have been in front of us since earlier this year. And it's that current group of people that we've been dealing with more seriously, if you would, or they've been dealing with us more seriously in terms of giving us the information that we've been requesting, which is primarily around safety, as well as some meddlesome site plan issues, which still need to be dealt with, zoning issues, but we'll deal with those. So with that, does the board have any comments they want to make? If not, I'm going to go into the public hearing. At the end of the public hearing, we have another matter before us, and then we're going to come back to you guys and discuss whatever we've heard at the public hearing and or anything else from our engineers, back and forth. There's a number of items that we need to talk about. So the public hearing, Chris?
I just wanted to clarify, I heard.
Speak up, Chris.
I just wanted to clarify, I heard for everybody's interest in the public, I heard 25 buses being mentioned, but this application is for 20 buses.
Correct. Right. You may be getting funding for an extra 5, but that's going someplace else, as I understand it. Not-
Yes.
No, we're not doing this one.
Okay, so it is for 20. Good, thank you, Chris. So just a couple of procedures for the public. I have about 13 people so far who want to speak. If you haven't had a chance to sign in, it doesn't mean you can't speak. It just makes it easier if we have a list. And when we finish the 13, if anybody else wants to speak, that's fine. The purpose of public hearing is to hear from the public, something we may have forgotten, something that that you believe we may not know. Of course, it involves your opinion about the pro or con, about the subject before us. What I would ask you to do is to make your comments and address the board, not the applicant. This is a public hearing for, I guess you could say, our benefit to see if we have everything together the way it should be together. The board is not going to, typically, we're not going to answer questions. It's not a Q&A or a public information session. We've been with this project for almost 2 years now, but in great detail for the last 9 months, 8 months, and a lot of information's out there in the public domain. So there might be some item that will be addressed if the public asks, but typically it's not going to be a Q&A. And I'd like the public to keep their comments to 5 minutes, given the number of people who want to comment. If at the end there's more time and somebody wants to speak again, we'll consider that, but please try to keep it at 5 minutes. If you have written statements that you'd like to submit, fine. And certainly if after the meeting is over, you want to submit written comments, that's certainly possible as well. Without further ado, I'm going to call the first person on the list, Tim Guiney. Good evening.
I'm Tim Guiney. I'm a Marbletown resident. I've been in Stone Ridge Fire Department for 24 years or something. And I've also served on the planning board in Marbletown. And I thank you all, and I think you're insane. I found it a hellscape being on a planning board, and a lot gets thrown at you guys. I've come to a couple of the meetings around this and heard questions about fire event with children. In at least the research I've done, I don't think there's been a fatality of a single child in an electric school bus in the United States. There may be, the percentage of electric school buses to diesel is small right now. There may be as that goes up, but that's a speculative question. What isn't speculative is what the superintendent brought up, which is that I'm going to just briefly talk about the air cabin, the quality of the air in the air cabin. There's a study that I looked at recently that actually showed that as emissions control things were put on tailpipes of school buses, there was no reduction in indoor air quality problems in diesel buses. We know that indoor air quality in diesel buses exposes children to volatile organic compounds, to benzene, formaldehyde, which are recognized carcinogens by the EPA. We know, as was mentioned, because of children's metabolism and smaller lung capacity, that benzene, the likelihood of developing cancer for a child from benzene is much greater than an adult. We also know that particulate matter 2.5 is something they're exposed to. Ultrafine particulate matter, UFPs, which is a sort of growing area of concern. Carbon monoxide, which firefighters, thank you for your service, know all about. And nitrogen dioxide. Nitrogen dioxide is involved in a host of respiratory and cardiovascular illnesses, COPD, but asthma, particularly pediatric asthma. There is some conversation that it may be causative. But what's absolutely certain, what is not speculative, is that it is an exacerbant. We know also that asthma is responsible for a lot of absenteeism. We know that children with asthma are less likely to graduate from high school than children who don't have the condition. So it's also connected to bronchitis, COPD. There's a new study looking at particulate matter 2.5 and nitrogen dioxide in outdoor long-term exposure. So it's not specific to school buses, but also linking it to onset of dementia. We know that there are issues with cognitive development in infants as well from nitrogen dioxide. So the last thing I'll say about all of that is we also know that with some of these things with benzene, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, the effects of exposure are additive. So if you're a child and you're at home and you have a mother who's smoking cigarettes, or you're running a gas stove without a vent, that exposure adds to the exposure you're getting on a school bus. It adds to the exposures you're getting in other places. So trying to get to create a healthier environment is important. Again, I thank you guys for your service and listening to me blow you.
Thank you, Mr. Guiney. The next person, Rich Lazzaroni.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Allow me to speak. My name is Rich Lanzarone. I'm a former board member of the Rondout Valley School Board. Former member of the Ulster County Planning Board. I have 20 years' experience as a municipal planner. I've studied very carefully your town code, your zoning code, your zoning schedule, and the site plan. And I don't really understand why this matter is actually before the planning board. This is not a change of use, which would trigger site plan review, a seeker and everything else. If I change my buses from diesel to gasoline, if I change the fuel of my bus, that's not a change of use. In fact, parking buses is not really a use, it's actually parking. And it's described in your zoning schedule, in zone B, business, that parking lots, open parking lots are allowed as of right. And one of the few things that doesn't have an asterisk, which would signify that it needed site plan review. So open parking lots in your B district do not require site plan review. And in fact, it doesn't even require a permit. Because your building code requires permits for buildings and structures. There's no requirement for electrical permits. And from my perspective, the children of Ronda Valley should not have been exposed for diesel fumes for the last 2 years. This should have been a ministerial act. Actually, it didn't even require ministerial. The only thing I could see is a concrete pad for a transformer. Ministerial act. If there should be, this matter, from my perspective, is not properly before this board. From the way I read your town code, planning code, and your zoning schedule. Thank you.
Thank you. I said I wouldn't answer anything, and I'm not gonna get into the details, but obviously, we're gonna continue with the application. Since we have a finding by the building department or the CEO that this should be handled by the planning board. And so, if anybody, just administratively or legally, if anybody thought that that was the wrong finding, there's a period of time when it can be challenged by a variety of means. That never occurred. But anyway, we're going to continue with this planning board. But thank you, Mr. Lanceron. Paul Spadaro, do you want to speak again? You're good. Okay, thank you. Brenda or Brendan? What's the last name? I'm sorry.
Come again? Brendan Walsh.
Thank you.
I'm here representing the Ulster County Department of the Environment. Firstly, thank you to Chair Jones for having us here, and thanks for the rest of the town board as well for this opportunity to speak. From the perspective of the Department of the Environment, we believe firmly that this EV charging station centered here on Route 209 is critical for the future of not just the Rondout Valley School District, not just the town of Rochester, but for the future of Ulster County as a whole. Now, Ulster County, as many people have mentioned, can speak pretty authoritatively on EV buses in this area. Thanks to an aggressive green fleet policy, we've now moved 25% of all of our county vehicles to electric vehicles and electric hybrid vehicles, including 5 EV buses and 3 transit vans. Now, in all this time that we've had our buses, in 2025 rather, we drove 100,000 miles in these buses, and we learned a thing or two. Namely, when you look at the efficiency of these vehicles, you find that they use 4 to 5 times less energy than their diesel counterparts. And what that means is it's a cost savings, of course, to the operators, but also when you look at the impact of those various kinds of energy, you see the greenhouse gas emissions, and as Tim was mentioning, the tailpipe emissions from these diesel buses is significantly higher, of course, in a diesel bus than an electric bus. Now, I ran a couple numbers just to give some perspective on this, but if you take a diesel bus and you drive it 100 miles, that will take 20 gallons of diesel to go that distance. If you take an electric bus, on average, according to our data from our fleet, it takes just 5 gallons equivalent of energy to go that same distance. And that's a 4 to 5 time reduction in energy use, right? But when you extrapolate that to the greenhouse gas emissions, you find that to go that distance, the diesel bus produces about 440 pounds of CO2 equivalent, and that is laced with all of these wonderful chemicals that Tim was talking about. Now, 440 pounds, also did the math on this, that's about 8 sixth graders. So you can imagine 8 sixth graders worth of CO2 being emitted for every 100 miles. The electric bus, conversely, produces just 50 pounds of CO2, and that CO2 is being produced at power plants in the grid. It's not coming out of the tailpipe, it's not being recycled in the cabin, and crucially, it's also not being dispersed at bus stops and at our schools. Just to add a little more flavor to this, if you take one of those buses, the diesel buses, and you drive it 100,000 miles, or if you take a fleet of diesel buses and drive them 100,000 miles, you'll produce 39 Olympic-sized swimming pools of CO2. But if you do the same thing with an electric bus, you produce just 5. And of course, that's not being cycled through our cabins. So just to drive home that point, the local and global impact that we see from these gases that are produced by buses are significantly lower and significantly less harmful to the public when it's powering an electric bus. So those are the main points I would like to hit here. Thank you again for your time. And if you have any further questions about county's green fleet policy or any of the numbers that I just spewed, please reach out. We'll also be sending written comments on behalf of the Department of the Environment to the planning board. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Eve Walter.
Hi,
Greetings.
I'm Dr. Eve Walter. I'm the Public Health Director, the head of the Department of Health in Ulster County. I'm also an epidemiologist, for what it's worth. So I was at the fair all week and it was hot. It was kind of brutal and it was difficult, especially with the Department of Health, seeing people trying to manage enjoying themselves at this fair in that heat. And all I could think was how glad I was that it wasn't a week or two before when our air was filled with smoke. And if, what would that be like for all of the families who are trying to enjoy the ride? We have a lot of things impacting our air quality that we can't really control, right? We're going to continuously be experiencing the smoke coming from wildfires. We're going to continuously be experiencing this excessive heat. And so the reason why this is important to me is that this becomes one of those rare things that we actually can control. And so it seems worth really focusing on it. You've heard already that, air pollution from motor vehicles associated with a range of different health effects, including asthma exacerbation, respiratory infections, cardiovascular disease, and other lung functions. And you've also heard about the impact that diesel has as a source of particulate pollution associated with airway irritation and inflammation. And this, again, these kinds of things especially impact the more vulnerable people, the people who have respiratory conditions, children with asthma, adults with asthma, COPD, any kind of heart conditions. It was mentioned, this idea that the focus is on safety. I'll just say before I go to that point, I actually served on the planning board for several years in New Paltz. And so I really appreciate the importance of recognizing for special use projects. You really have to think about that the special use, that it's really serving the health and welfare and the nature of the community that it's there. That's why you'll give a special use permit. And so for me, this concept of safety is not just avoiding danger, which I think people spoke to of how safe they are, but safety is also about reducing risk. And so I'm here to advocate for this project and projects similar to this in an effort to reduce the risks that are out there. Again, this is one we can do something about. There are many out there that we can't. I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you. Next person is Carrie Cousins. Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Carrie Cousins. I am Vice President of the Rondout Valley Central School District Board of Education, a member of the Town of Rochester's Agricultural Advisory Committee, and am the owner of the Hudson Valley Own Farm. I'm not here to speak for the board, but to share my opinion as an individual board member and speak in support of the proposed electric school bus project. As a member of the Board of Education, I have a responsibility to consider the health and safety of our students, the responsible use of public resources, and the long-term well-being of the entire Rondout Valley community. From each of these perspectives, transitioning to electric school buses represents an important and forward-looking opportunity. In October of 2022, the Rondout Valley Central School District was awarded $9.87 million through the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Clean School Bus Program. This funding would support the replacement of 20 diesel buses with electric school buses, along with the charging infrastructure needed to operate them. This is a significant investment in our community, one that does not require our local taxpayers to fund the substantial upfront cost of this new technology through a local bond or tax levy. From a fiscal standpoint, this opportunity is especially important. New York State is moving toward the conversion of school bus fleets to zero-emission vehicles, with the current statewide mandate of transitioning school bus fleets by 2040. By using federal funding that has already been awarded, our district and transportation provider can begin meeting that obligation without shifting the full financial burden to local taxpayers. If we do not utilize this funding soon, we risk losing it, as we've heard. If this award is surrendered, there is no assurance that these funds will be re-awarded to our district. Rondout Valley has recently been designated a non-priority district, meaning we would likely qualify for substantially less funding in the future. There are also meaningful long-term operating benefits. According to the information presented to the district, placing electric buses into service could potentially reduce operating costs by as much as $37.5 million over the bus's estimated 12-year life cycle. While actual savings will depend on energy prices, maintenance needs, routes, and other operating factors, electric buses offer the potential for lower fuel and maintenance expenses. The environmental benefits are also compelling, as we've heard. Replacing diesel buses with electric buses would reduce pollution. Every diesel bus removed from service means fewer tailpipe emissions traveling through our neighborhoods, past our homes, and onto our school campuses. This is not simply an environmental issue, it's also a public health issue. Diesel exhaust has been associated with asthma, respiratory illness, cardiovascular concerns, and other negative health effects, again, as we heard today. Electric buses would eliminate tailpipe emissions and reduce students' daily exposure to diesel fumes while they're boarding, riding, and waiting near buses. Cleaner buses mean cleaner air for our students, our drivers, our staff, the residents, and all of us who live and work along our transportation routes. I recognize that the planning board and the community have raised legitimate questions regarding the proposed site, emergency preparedness, fire safety, traffic, and compliance with local requirements, and these are valid concerns. First Student has proposed several measures in response, including creating an electric bus only site, providing increased spacing between vehicles, installing fire detection and site monitoring systems, adjusting the site layout to meet applicable requirements, and providing specialized training for drivers, maintenance personnel, and first responders. First Student has also indicated its willingness to work with local officials and emergency services to provide any additional training that may be needed. I know safety is a priority for our district, as I'm sure it is for our town and for this planning board. I expect First Student to continue collaborating openly with the town and the Accord Fire District, emergency responders, and the community to address concerns and satisfy all applicable planning, zoning, and safety requirements. This project offers Rondout Valley an opportunity to protect student health, reduce pollution, modernize our transportation system, comply responsibly with the state's long-term direction, and make use of almost $10 million in federal funding before that opportunity is lost. As a school board member, I believe we have an obligation to consider not only the challenges immediately before us, but also the community we want to leave to future generations. Cleaner air, healthier children, responsible fiscal planning, and a more sustainable transportation system are goals that benefit everyone in our community. I respectfully ask the Town of Rochester Planning Board to continue working collaboratively with the district, First Student, local emergency responders, and community members to establish the conditions necessary for this project to move forward safely and responsibly. Thank you for your time, your thoughtful consideration, and your service to the town.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker, Lisa Caddy.
I'm Lisa Katie, and I didn't realize I was signing up to. I thought I was just signing in. However, I'm the first neighbor to the north with the school.
Lisa, could you talk a little louder? Maybe you want to come up to the middle of the room, so.
I'm the first neighbor to the north of where the school buses are. And I really wanted to know what the plan was to know more about it, and I came more with questions than with speaking, giving comments. I'm all for electric school buses, so I just had some questions. I don't know if it's the right platform to ask them though. So, as
Well,
you
it's a-
said, you weren't.
Yeah, it's a
answering
public
questions.
hearing, so we're looking for comments. You know, we've been at this for 2 years, but seriously for about a year. But after the public hearing and one other project we're gonna go through, so sometime around 8 o'clock, probably, we're gonna get into a discussion. So if you want to stay around for that, I'm sure you'll learn a lot from that.
8 o'clock.
I'm sorry, yes, we'll be here till at least 12.
You have questions, you can.
Chris, I can't hear what you're saying.
She has questions. What I was explaining to her is if she has questions, she can ask them now.
Yeah.
And then they will be discussed at around 8 o'clock or so.
That's fair enough.
So I think it's worthwhile for her to speak.
Well, the first thing was, since I'm, on the property to the north, I was wondering if the lot will be expanded to what it is now, because I know that property, the people that own the field and everything right now, right where the school buses are is for sale, so I was just wondering if the lot had plans to be expanded. That was one of them, and, the other one was more implementation of putting in the lines, because it's going to have a station, you're going to have more electricity going to there. And so I don't know, but I'm assuming there's going to be more lines put in. And I was also wondering, we used to have a lot of brownouts and blackouts, not recently, touch wood. But what impact it'll have on the grid. So those were my main concerns. So, thank you.
Thank you. Emily Abramson.
Bringing my daughter up, she's gonna speak out. Good evening, everyone, members of the planning board and all community members that make up this fine district of Rondout. My name is Emily Asser Abramson, and I'm speaking tonight as a resident and a parent of 3 daughters in the district who cares deeply about our children's health, environmental responsibility, and our community's financial future. Transitioning our fleet isn't just about meeting state mandates, it is a common sense win for the town of Rochester in making use of this incredible grant that has been allotted to us. Our district operates approximately 50 vehicles, of those approximately 25 heavy duty diesel buses. Replacing 20 full-size diesel buses will have a massive impact. Studies show, and I've been reading plenty of articles lately, I put some of them on the website, the Town of Rochester website for the public comment section. But they can be up to 12 times dirtier diesel buses than outside air, directly exposing our kids to harmful exhaust pollution that trigger dangerous respiratory attacks, particularly affecting our asthmatic population of 132 students district-wide. Electric buses eliminate tailpipe emissions, as we've heard, while providing a quieter, cooler ride with standard AC that dramatically improves student behavior and reduces driver stress. And I won't have to hear lamentations about it every day from my team. Replacing these 20 diesel buses is projected to deliver $120,000 every year in local health and climate savings. As for safety, eliminating liquid fuels like gasoline and diesel drastically reduce the fire risk. As electric vehicles are statistically far less prone to fires, coupled with affordable site curbing to satisfy EPA compliance, this is a clear, safe path forward. Our community wants cleaner air, safer routes, and smart fiscal planning. Let us lead the way tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is my daughter. She's gonna be.
Good evening, members of the Town of Rochester Planning Board. My name is Nora Abramson. I'm a rising ninth grader in the Rondout Valley Central School District. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak tonight about how electric school buses could help me and my fellow students. For me, as for many students, the school bus is how we start and end every school day. We spend a lot of time riding the bus, so the kind of bus we ride really does matter. Electric buses could be especially helpful for students who have asthma or other breathing problems. Diesel buses give off exhaust that students can breathe in while waiting for the bus, getting on, or riding. For students who already have trouble breathing, diesel fumes can make the bus ride even more difficult. Electric buses do not produce a diesel exhaust. This would mean cleaner air for students, bus drivers, school staff, and the neighborhoods where buses travel. For students with asthma, cleaner air could make riding the bus feel healthier and safer. Another great benefit is that the new buses would have air conditioning. Anyone who has ridden a school bus on a hot, humid day knows how uncomfortable it can be. Students could arrive at school feeling better and more ready to learn. Electric buses are also much quieter than diesel buses. On a diesel bus, students often have to speak louder to be heard over the engine. When everyone starts talking louder, the bus can quickly become stressful. A quieter bus could create a calmer environment. Students would not have to shout, and the driver could give directions much more easily. A calmer bus could also improve student behavior and reduce distractions. The way we feel on the bus can also affect the rest of our day. After a long school day, a quiet and comfortable ride home would be nice, especially during humidity or heat. I understand that people have questions and concerns about electric buses, and I agree that safety should always come first. I also hope you will think about the students who ride these buses every day. Electric school buses would give cleaner air, air conditioning, less noise, and a calmer ride. They could make a real difference for students with asthma, disabilities, sensory needs, and other health concerns. This project is about more than replacing one kind of bus with another. It is about making the ride to school better for students while also creating a cleaner environment for our community. Thank you for listening and for considering the voices of Rondout Valley students.
Good job, Nora. What grade are you in?
I'm going into
What grade?
9.
Ninth. Good job, Mom.
Fortunately,
I
I told it would be 30 minutes, so it's very bad.
The next name, I'm not quite sure. Beautiful handwriting. It looks like either Jenna Bradford. Is that even close? All right, I'm gonna skip to Ellie Neiman then. Is there an Ellie Neiman here? No? Can you make this name up? 10 minutes because you want to say shit. Jen, did you sign the to speak?
I did not.
You did not, okay. Because I can't make, I thought maybe it was you, it's beautiful handwriting, so if you want to, if you want to speak, you. Okay, Ellie Neiman, not here, okay. Last name is Phil Honer? Kyle Honer?
Phil Howard?
Yes, sorry.
I didn't know I was gonna.
What's the
talk,
first
but
name?
I'm a bus driver for First Student, so I came to learn more about the electric buses, since I'll be driving one eventually.
Okay. Well, hang around, so we'll get started chatting about them again at 8 o'clock and, you know, it's, frequently have people come to the meetings asking a lot of questions and we could be here for hours and hours and hours answering all these great questions and it's just want to encourage people. There's so many interesting projects that are on the agenda and the way to find out about them is just to go onto the town website and see what's on the agenda for any number of town board, planning board, ZBA, whatever, but the planning board publishes its agenda 4 or 5 days before our Monday meetings. And not only do we do that, but we have a new system that was implemented last year that allows you to go in and examine all of the documentation for a particular project and to be able to study up on it. And to attend the meetings and hear the board discuss them along with the applicant. In fact, we have one project, if you really enjoy reading a lot, that has 400 documents in it. It's called a Verizon cell tower, so you have nothing to do this weekend. If you want to catch up on that, please be my guest. The last speaker is Kathy Nolan. Kathy, is there anybody else who signed this? And I didn't call on? Because I certainly butchered a few of the names. Okay. Kathy?
Thank you. My name is Kathy Nolan and I'm an Ulster County legislator for District 22, which is the 4 towns west of the middle of the Ashokan Reservoir. And I also work for Catskill Mountain Keeper, which is an environmental and public health nonprofit organization. Tonight I'm here not for either of those organizations, but in my role as the president of New York State's chapter of Physicians for Social Responsibility. It's a nonprofit group of physicians and healthcare workers who advocate for public health in various ways. And we've worked on a lot of issues that are directly relevant to school buses and now to electrification of school buses. I also used to work on I served on Shandaken's ZBA, zoning board of appeals, since people have talked about their prior experience, and I thought it was wonderful. Lots of different perspectives. I can say I'm a pediatrician by training, and I also have training in epidemiology and research design. And so I've been looking at the research in this field. And I can really back up and confirm everything that you've heard from the speakers tonight about the toxicology of what diesel buses put out and the benefits of removing those or not having those produced by electric vehicles. And I especially appreciate the Abramson family and Nora Abramson, the daughter's presentation about just air conditioning and reductions in noise could be enough to make this a valid transition. But I grew up in Tennessee and we had the Tennessee Valley Authority, which was hydro. And so I grew up in a house that was electric. And when I came up to New York State and discovered that people were burning fuels, combustible fuels in their homes, I found it very difficult in terms of odors and noise. And exposures, which I was aware of. This is, there's a general principle that you should not burn a fuel inside a closed container that also has human beings in it. I work with a group that is trying to get people on the Tibetan Plateau not to burn dung in their yurts, basically, to switch to solar, solar heat. Any closed container is going to make whatever contaminants you have that much more hazardous to the people in them. And in our bus, in our school districts, we have children traveling long distances, which means long periods of time. In my role with the legislature, I did speak with the Ontario School District a few months ago, encouraging their transition to EV buses. So I felt like I should come and speak and support your effort to do that here. So I think that as we look at these issues, you can understand that when you burn something, it produces kind of particulate matter and fine particulate matter, as Tim Guinea spoke about. What you might not know is that when you have co-contaminants like the other products of combusting fuels, like diesel and even methane, natural gas, you have with the particulate matter a vehicle for transporting those co-contaminants deep inside the body. Because otherwise they're gaseous and they might not get in so deep. But when you are burning something that produces particulate matter, those particles, the gases and toxins adhere to that and they go deep into the body. So what we've seen in terms of new onset asthma, worsening of asthma, cardiovascular disease. There's mortality, there's actual deaths that you can measure relative to exposure to combusting of diesel fuel and other gasoline, natural gas, fossil fuels. So it is true that children breathe faster, and so they bring in more. They are also growing, and so they are expending energy and need to have cleaner air, and they are developing. And there's concern that I have about the effects of these co-contaminants, especially on development of children's brains. There was a study that looked at retrofitting diesel buses, and they showed not only the decreases in asthma and pneumonia, but they showed improved lung growth. And they also showed increases in English and math scores after they retrofitted the diesel buses. Switching to EV is an even stronger, cleaner way to go. So I am really impressed that you went after the money and got it. And I hope that, and it looks like you found a way to do this safely. So I wish you every success in going forward.
Thank you, Kathy. That was the last speaker that signed up. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak for or against? Yes, sir. Can I have your name, please?
My name is Wes John Alder. I'm a resident of Marbletown on the far side of the district, close to the border of Burley. So I appreciate all the conversations about children's health. I wanted to speak, I guess, on the business side and emphasize that, with the federal government kind of withdrawing itself from supporting environmentally conscious developments, whether it's through electrification or other environmental protections, I think sees the money. It seems like a no-brainer. Like that, it's going to be a long time before we get a grant like this again. So that's my comment.
Thank you. The comments that Kathy made reminds me of my time in Tibet years and years and years ago. They called it patties. The dung is called patties there. And just a little geography, they actually put them up against the side of the buildings on the sunny side in order to dry them, and then pile them up in their yards and use them to heat the houses. When we were up there, the place that I was staying in was being heated by cow patties. Don't pet the fluffy cows though. They're a little bit, the yaks are a little bit cantankerous rather. Okay, anybody else? The applicants, did you make note of what
Question?
Lisa?
Yes.
So you'll address that
If
when
we
you
can
get.
speak to her during the break.
No, I'd like you to do it when we get to the meeting.
We'll do.
You know, it doesn't sound like they're gonna
No,
take
it's
very
easy to
long.
address.
They were easy to address, so I'd like you to do that. Dave, I showed you the CEO determination. Do you want to address the issue of why this is even before the planning board?
Yeah, just real quick. The planning board does not make zoning determinations, including the questions that the gentleman raised in his comments. The CEO makes the zoning determinations and the planning board follows the CEO's determination. In this case, the CEO determined that it should be before the planning board for site plan approval and a special use permit due to the installation of the EV chargers. Right or wrong, one of the beautiful things about our society is that there's a separation of powers. We have a certain job and the building inspector has a certain job. The building, as the chair alluded to, the building inspector's determination is not final. It can be appealed to the ZBA by anybody who's affected by it and doesn't think it's right. There is a time frame for that. In most towns, it's 60 days. I'd have to check what it is here,
60
but
days.
I think the determination was dated November or December of last year. So that would have been your time frame to question that. Other than that, that's why we're here. And our job is to do site plan approval. In fact, and that question has been raised in the past, and there's a number of court cases telling planning boards don't even think about rejecting projects or not handling them because you think you know the zoning, especially where the CEO's made a determination. So that's the short answer.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, anybody else from the public? All right, what we're gonna do is, if not, we're gonna take a 10-minute break. We have one project. Is Bill Eggers here? There you are, Bill. Bill, you're next up, and then we're going to bring you gentlemen back and we'll have a discussion
Rick, you wanna do, keep the public hearing?
Oh, hold on 1 second. Keeping the public hearing open, I'm gonna recommend that we close the public hearing. Remember, the public hearing for purposes of the board, taking a vote, is to hear public commentary. This project's been here one form or another for 2 years, but certainly for the last year, so my intention is to close it, but I'd like to hear what the board wants to do. If we close it, we'll still take written comments.
Yeah, that was my.
Is that acceptable?
Yeah, I would just like to point out that the fire department, I'm not involved in this decision on the fire department side. The fire department has not responded to because the district chief has been on vacation.
Right, right.
So I feel like that there's that bit of information that is missing.
I know we're gonna have a discussion about where we are with setting up the meeting with the fire department, and the reason it didn't happen is because the fire chief's been on vacation, so. I'm gonna make a motion to close the public hearing, and it's up to the board.
I'll second the motion.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Keeping the rate and balance.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Yes,
Second
we will.
motion.
I made the motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Fine.
Okay. We will accept written comments, I'm gonna say up until and including the time of decision, so that could be 30 days, that could be 60 days, so let's keep the written comment period open permanently until the project's been decided on the other. All right, so let's take 10
I
minutes.
think we should have a little time between the end of the public comments and the decisions. We need to have time.
Well, I don't disagree with you, except there are so many moving pieces here. We still need to meet with the fire department, right? And there's still some information that needs to be discussed between us. So I think it's easier in this case just to leave it open. Okay. So let's do that. Let's take a 10-minute break and we'll come back. First, next thing up is the electors, and then we'll talk about first student.
Comments for you here. I believe we also emailed.
Email it to the secretary.
I believe so. I'll make sure that that, but the means that. So you might have spoken to our director and.
I think that's what it is.
Well, thank you for. Thank you.
Take your guys' pictures, don't you? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I figured no one needed to hear me at that. You guys heard me
I
already.
couldn't make out, couldn't make this out. That last one.
Jen, that's.
No, I said it first, I thought.
They may have gone with like a sign.
Signage sheet,
Just
it
come
was a
in.
bunch of,
There were- But no, I think that's probably what happened. Anyway. Are you?
baby. Oh,
Another.
we've had at least another one.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
There's so many questions because I here, I think I have to go with ZBA, that's not going to go down this process, we're gonna. Well, the reason, letter, they were looking at this board, and so it's kind of. So, setback, and again, it's like. You need to go talk to the building inspector, which they're doing ZCA. So, but it's not gonna, normally that was so that's down, normally it's saying, well, you know, this building.
Exactly.
When we come back, this, we're gonna get it out, but.
This was within the time frame. That's my greatest source of anxiety.
You know, isn't.
Yeah, that's something.
Not chosen, not. Good. Following your. And so we'll get through here, it's taking way too, but we're gonna. But when if they, end up with today and one is not to start. poking EPA again, you want to get through it quickly. A lawyer's gonna get.
Well, I think that's what's gonna come up again. Well, that'll rise, but the. As long as you guys are. Out, because the season will be like.
The point is, you know, get a variance. If they can consider, there's much things going on, they can consider themselves a public utility, they can get pretty quickly.
That was,
Even without. On the CPA level, some sort of side, which determine whether you get an area variance. A smart boy can figure this out in a split second, especially if they really need that cube. Where they say that they need it, I don't know if they really do, but they say they sort of stumble around like the presentation. And I thought, but simply doing that.
Usually it's just
Later we should do. I would have given up.
Yeah.
I was texting. Yes, it's okay, it's the second one, cool, but.
We started recording this. I think we did starting that process now.
Was to go talk to. So, do, doesn't consider, because they consider a temporary structure. That's right. The ones that do that, God bless them. But he says, no, sorry, it's, you can't put a setback. They have one to move anything.
He might have.
Yeah. Right. The other is to go to the. There's says this.
Does he have to turn his volume on now?
They might have. Right. Maybe.
Right, can you hear
I don't need to describe it, but maybe it's different.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but here's now. They probably do the same thing.
Speak a little louder if you can.
I mean, yeah.
Let me see if I can turn my volume up.
That's good. Okay, we're gonna go into the marsh.
Does that sound louder?
That's perfect.
Okay.
We have a whole.
And we're gonna go into the marsh.
Yes.
It's not.
And then we'll go into.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I don't know, it seems like a lot of something that's already.
I can hear you.
So, low risk.
Yeah. Yes.
For everyone overall.
Engagement with the private department is what's going to be the problem.
No, I think it's not fair actually because.
I can hear you.
There's also, fire, it's the most important.
I can hear you.
Just sending a lot of hate. The other thing is that just
She likes that.
aspects of society.
Yeah.
Point is,
I can't imagine.
from this side, they can still respond to that because they haven't perceived that it's a process. But the point, having said that, and having got, unfortunately.
I can hear you.
Later.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Few days with that.
Yes.
That's there. That's the jury. The accident, Tom Jackson.
Yeah.
Is that what
Are you going anywhere else this summer?
Yes.
I'm gonna see him. Kind of go and post them.
I was gonna say, well, because it went to my.
I went with Abel. No, it's that. We went to the Louvre.
Share that guy's frustration.
Taking care of my friends. Had L 4 5 views. Oh, yeah, no, she's a garden. I mean, she's a rock. She will not bend. Yeah, so anyway. She'll have brand new car. There's tons of miles. It's not that bad. Like, I like the boat. I still don't know how to work a boat. No, it's not.
You know what, I don't watch you.
Yes. That's happened.
Okay, let's get back together again.
I'm not at the.
Guess I should wait for our attorney.
Thank you. We'll wait forever. Excellent. No cartoons. Return the cartoons. I know.
I've got more.
That's how I bribe you to keep up, you know, to be nice to me.
Thank you.
I do get some random notes. So, way I get my fellow board members to be nice to me.
We're always pleased.
I know.
Better than Thanksgiving turkey.
Hey, can you hear us?
Yes.
Thank you. Hang on one second. We're just waiting for our attorney.
Okay.
Like waiting for Godot. For anybody who doesn't know who this character is on the screen, that's our engineer, Greg Bowler, who asked that he be able to call in tonight for a variety of reasons, one of which he just had some major surgery, so.
We miss you, Greg.
Thank you.
I miss you. My Oklahoma man. One of Phil's. It's all about Oklahoma.
Okay, can you hear us?
It's all about Oklahoma. 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 It's all about O
I know you give 10 minutes to a full, oh, here he comes. Here comes the professor. Okay, all stuff. All right, so the next project is the Marsh Ave subdivision. And Bill, do you want to let the board know what's going on?
Yeah, so you're all familiar with this property, everybody's been there, except for Dave. Everybody else on the board has been to the property. So briefly, we were proposing a 3-lot subdivision and had some issues, as you all know, as you all walk up the driveway. That went to the proposed lot in the back there, and that was rather steep. So it was gonna be a quite a bit of work with engineering, design, construction, and everything to get that into place here. So look at the property, Marshak right here, is really his priority right now is to separate out these pieces of land from the large parcel in the middle, the 17.5 acres proposed lot 1 that has a house and other facilities with it, because he wants to get that on the market. He wants to sell that off, but he doesn't want to sell these other lands with it. He wants to keep those for other purposes, wants, you know, building lot in the front. And so what we've pulled out the proposal that we had before and brought back another proposal that would be the subdivision of the small lot out in the front. We don't have any issues with that. And the portion on the back is
that proposed lot 2?
No, that's not true.
Lot 2.
Right. So, and then to do a lot line adjustment or lot line improvement here in Rochester of this parcel in the back, about 3 acres bounded by stone walls. To attach that to other lands that Mr. Marshak owns in the back here. Existing driveway goes through to that house and barns and stuff like that. And also include with that a little triangle just so to provide for the ability in the future to have a better connection across with a driveway there. So if you remove that driveway to where it is, they had to really squeeze it to get above the corner of that lot. So if we take this whole piece, attach it to the other one in the back, you know, a little more flexibility to bring that driveway around. So if he were to ever in the future decide to follow through with what he had proposed as far as a subdivision of this lot in the back, the one that's bounded by stone walls, obviously that would have to come back to the planning board for approval for that. That piece originally was part of the lands which is now shown in Boyd as Boyd. And was also attached at one time with the parcels, his other lands of Marshak there. So it's kind of bringing things back together there.
Right, so thanks, Bill. So when I saw this is the 3rd iteration, right? We've had 2 previous iterations of this withdrawn, not just changed. So last year in April or March, the applicant came with something, he withdrew that. Came up with the driveway, as Bill said, that didn't seem to work. Came back with another one. We said, okay, we need to see, if you want to do that, you need to give us the engineerings and all that. You need to see the profiles, compaction, what you're going to build the road of. The applicant didn't want to go through all that work, wanted to get this other parcel 2 on the market. So they withdrew the old thing, the old map, withdrew that again. And this is now a new application again. With the changes that Bill just mentioned. What I mentioned to Bill was, okay, but maybe 3 times is the charm. But here's what I want in order for us to get this back on the agenda and for the board. I think the board would want the following to be part of our discussion and our agreement. Lot 2, I think most of us walked that, and I didn't see any problem with that. The other one still has the problem, how do you get access? So I said, fine, you want to do lot 2. If we decide to approve it as mapped out here after our discussion, there's going to be in the decision and therefore on the map, what's going to be, it needs to be agreed to, is that there'll be the driveway is going to have to be proved to be viable by presenting engineerings. Whether they come back to this board for another subdivision, or there is a provision in our code to allow 2 houses to be placed on 1 lot. without going through subdivision. It depends upon the zone, it depends upon the size of the lot. In this case, you could have the house way off to the right combined with the property that is being proposed to be lot lined, eliminated. The combination of that could allow two houses to be put on the property without going through the subdivision process. So I said, look, to kind of stop playing games here with access to it, fine. But whether you build a house by going to the building department or you come back here for a subdivision, we're gonna need to see build the engineerings, which includes the profiles, compaction, how you're gonna build the road, what kind of drainage. Because if you remember last time, and now it's about 5 months ago, we went there was already erosion occurring from rains. The pipe that was under the road was already being undercut by the water coming down that one of those hills. There were some comments made by somebody who knows what it takes to get a fire truck up a road like that is, how are we gonna get a fire truck up there? There was no provision for turnarounds, Bill, as provided by New York State Fire Code, a whole host of things. So I'm okay with lot 2, but I want to make it clear in terms of verbiage that this other one's not being subdivided. Part of the subdivision process is going to require the engineerings, and on the map, there's going to be a note that they cannot go to the building department and ask for another house without proving that this is buildable by presenting the engineerings.
So effectively, what it would be is a 2-lot subdivision with a lot line improvement.
Yes. Yes.
Do we know what the slope is on the new proposed driveway?
When Greg looked at the plans and just doing by the seat of his pants without actually getting out there, somebody looking at it, he said it was close to 25%.
No, not the driveway that we walked, but the,
Isn't it distant driveway?
is that existing? Because we didn't go.
They're not showing a proposed
Not
driveway.
showing a proposed, what they're showing here is the one we walked, Jen, and it says driveway to be abandoned.
Right, so.
They're not showing any driveway up there. They did on the previous map, they showed a driveway. And at that point, it was a little bit to the right of the one that says abandoned. So they did put it on a flatter piece of property and that might have worked. You said, okay, but you still need to show us the engineering for that one. But we never got to that point because the applicant withdrew the application. So they already have a note there that the one that we walked is being abandoned. And what I want is assurances that,
So then why do we need a lot line improvement with this?
because the applicant is asking for a lot line improvement.
But that driveway already exists to that,
To the bar?
yeah, the house and bar. So I'm not really.
Is this an existing house and barn or is this a proposed?
Yes, it's existing, yeah.
So there is a driveway there, right?
Oh, I understand.
You have a driveway,
I see, I got it.
you have a driveway access and an existing.
No, because they.
I know. They'd have to subdivide or do a ADU up here. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
For lot 3? Gotcha. Okay, I understand.
But this becomes part of this one.
Yeah, wait, so
There's no reason to, I guess the way to answer your question about why is it, there's no reason to deny the lot line.
Yeah, no, I got it now. I see, because it's already developed. It's not.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I
Yeah.
understand. I don't have a problem with that.
Anybody on this side?
No, I think that's reasonable.
I can do that.
So Bill, we're willing to proceed. We need a public hearing, so I'm even willing to set a public hearing tonight to get this moving, but you need to agree, you and the applicant needs to agree that, you know, well, we're gonna put it in the decision. And it has to carry over to the map. It's not even, do you agree? We're gonna put it in the decision. And as you know, all the conditions wind up on the map. So I just want to let you know what we're gonna ask for in terms of conditions in order to go forward with this. And I think it's particularly Mr. Marshak, is because this is the third time at this, swinging at this, and it keeps, the board is concerned with the inability to get to that lot properly with, it's gonna need to be engineered properly, and what we've seen so far, it's not been engineered properly. So that's why we're insisting on what I just outlined. So you guys on board?
Good with it?
Okay.
Anything that's required to make this proper, we'll do.
Okay. So the board have any other questions?
I do. Did we have Dave Church do a write-up? Do we need to do that?
I'm sorry,
Do
Jen.
we need to have Dave Church do a write-up?
Um,
to do-
he did one originally, way back when, I believe.
We have one in the file, okay,
It's in the file.
okay.
But I mean,
the application has changed
I
substantially.
can ask Dave to do a write-up.
Or just modify what he already did.
That's what.
I can ask him to do
Right?
that. Yeah.
We need more escrow.
I had to check with Stacy what we have in escrow. I don't know how much we have. So I will ask that we do a write-up or a modification.
I mean, it's a very different project.
Does the board wait for that, or do you want to set a public hearing? The earliest time we could set a public hearing, given what's on our agendas, is the first meeting in September.
I'm fine with that.
I think very reasonable.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion then for a public hearing for first meeting in September, which is, I believe, September 14th.
I'll make a motion for a public hearing on September 14th.
And I'll second it.
Let me just check the date. Hold on. You can see that I miss Stacy terribly. She keeps me on this. Yes, the 14th.
I'll make a motion for a public hearing on the 14th.
Motion made.
Seconded.
Helena seconds. Everybody, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Nay. Okay. All right, so Bill, I'll find out whether or not whether Dave needs to do an update. It's an easy thing to do. Stacy will check the escrow. We'll have the public hearing September 14th. Assuming there's no problems with that, we'll be able to write up the decision and have it for the end of September. All right?
Okay.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Can I just clarify my mind? So we ended up, Mr. Mafat, after he sells it lot 2, he will end up with the 2 lots.
Yes, in effect.
Right. Since he owns 2 lots, there shouldn't be any a driveway agreement, the common driveway, because it's one owner, it's not required.
He's not sure, he's not doing anything with the driveways.
Right, but okay.
It's not a subdivision, it's existing.
It's existing, so
He's not doing anything with any other driveways. He'll have a driveway for lot 2, but that's,
no, I'm talking about the driveway to barn and.
that is existing already.
Right, but it's going through the proposed lot 1. So my question.
It's there already. Presumably there's an RMA there for it already. So
There's easements, I'm assuming.
But
I'm not gonna complicate this any further.
but I mean.
When he comes back, Sorian, and asks to do something,
Yeah.
then we can deal with whether you have an RMA, if he splits it off again, right? And he needs to do a stint, if you will, for another driveway, he's gonna need an RMA. But right now, there's only one driveway,
Okay,
and whatever happened in the past with that is not the subject for what we're doing here, in my opinion. Everybody okay with that?
Could we ask, because there's that driveway, I understand it's gonna be abandoned, but I'm thinking about like an emergency call. Could we ask that they throw like a log over that driveway so fire trucks don't try to get up there if there's a call to the barn?
Up the road.
Yeah, just so that nobody tries to drive up that way.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I mean,
I'm not-
could be used as a farm, as a
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
tractors, et cetera. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Fair enough.
It's tractorable with a 4-wheel, but it's not carable.
Yeah.
You're making up words,
Rick,
Rick.
you gotta assume that we can get a
I mean, I guess it is carable if you had a 4-wheel drive, but it's have to be pretty.
I think that's beyond,
Okay, you guys good?
Yeah.
Sorian, you okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mr. Mr. Marshack, thank you. Okay, Chris, would you mind getting the first student people back?
All good?
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
We'll talk later this week.
Sounds good. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, well, Lisa left. Lisa Katie left.
Well, we can go over our. We spoke for us.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, but we'll have it answer on the way.
So she's good?
Yes.
All right, so let's get down to the brass tacks here. Chris, I know that you tried to get a hold of the fire chief to set up a meeting. In fact, you did it right after the last meeting. You saw his truck parked out there, but he was already on vacation. So you all are gonna give him a call to try to set up a meeting for later on this week or next week. The purpose of that is to, and I assume this has happened already, if not, I thought we made a lot of progress at the last meeting with all of the safety bits and pieces that were put together. And bits and pieces doesn't give justice to the work that was done by everybody. But I thought that it addressed many of the concerns that were in the letter from the fire chief from going back about 3 or 4 weeks. So the purpose of the meeting with the fire chief, if he asks, is to go through at a high level what has been done, what has been agreed to by the applicant, and is there any change in terms of how the chief wants to approach this? I mean, in essence, and I will try to make the meeting. If I can't, well, I'll try to make the meeting. So that's one thing. At the last meeting, Chris Lapine, I had asked you to summarize the results of the last meeting, all of the items that we said were done, those that weren't done, still needed work. And I think you said you wanted to wait until after the public hearing to do that.
So after, just want to make sure, so you're referring to after the last planning board meeting or?
The last planning board meeting, which was the 27th of July.
So we received their plans on 7/31.
Yes.
The updated plans.
Right.
And we have not. We have a letter that is in progress. We haven't concluded the letter.
Okay.
And the only reason why we haven't concluded the letter, you asked that it confirm whether or not the fire department felt comfortable with the responses. So that's one of the outstanding items, is to have that meeting with the fire department so that we can summarize any outstanding items on their end.
So what does the fire department have right now from both parties that would allow them to react to their concerns from their memo of about a month ago?
So I know they dropped an additional copy off here at the town when they made their submission. And that was one of the things I asked at the last planning board meeting, if that could be sent over to the fire department.
You're talking about the site plan?
Correct.
All right, I'm thinking more of the 25 items that you came up with, they responded to, and we went back and forth on.
And those components, those responses and those documents that they submitted were the documents in response to fire department comments and our comments. So what I'm referencing is that package, if Stacy brought that or sent that package over to the fire department, and they've had an opportunity, which I doubt they had an opportunity today to read. But the intent is to schedule a meeting with them. Give them some time, 3 or 4 days to review the material that was submitted. And then if they feel comfortable with the comments that were rendered, and the responses that were rendered, we can conclude our response letter.
The package you're referring to, though, that you gave to Stacy was just a set of maps.
No, it was the entire package from July 31st.
Okay.
That had their emergency response plan, technical specifications.
I'm sorry, there was about
HMA.
That was the document or the submission that had like 9 documents attached to it.
Correct.
And I questioned there was a duplicate. That's right.
Correct, and then I resent the one that was missing.
Okay. So that's the package that was supposed to go to the fire department.
Correct.
You guys didn't send it over to them.
We sent a full-size copy as per Stacy's request to Stacy. But any of the information in regards to the response document, the emergency response document, I was not informed that we had to send anything directly to the fire chief. Correct, that was, my understanding was you were sending that in so that Stacy can. Correct.
Okay.
Per year or whatever, like put it in Hisman or.
All right, and in that package, there was a map, and then there was all those other documents in that package.
Correct.
Physical copies of those
Correct.
documents. Okay. So could I ask you tonight before you go back to Ohio or first thing tomorrow?
Sure.
Now that the fire chief is back, could you send that whole package PDF wise electronically to the chief?
To the chief, you want us to
Yeah, why
send
don't
it
you-
directly to
yeah.
the chief? Good. Well, I was gonna say, I could do that as well, I just assumed he was getting the paper copy.
That's fine. Chris, why don't you've had the contact, why don't you
We've
do
been in
it
contact, so,
ASAP tonight or tomorrow?
understood.
Copy myself, Stacy, the applicant,
Will
and then
do.
Stacy will get it out to the board to make sure the board knows. And in that, indicate and he's just back from vacation, so be nice to him. And I'm sure he's got a lot on his plate. Just indicate that what this is and what this represents.
Great.
It's the final iteration of about 3 different meetings that we've had back and forth. You meeting with the applicant, the 3 of us, you and myself and one other board member. I don't remember if you were there, Peter, but Dave Church was there. We hashed out for a couple of hours all of the issues, and then we went through it again at the planning board meeting. So that final set of documents from 31st is a result of about 3 different meetings with a whole host of people going through it and asking for more information, understanding what it was. So just explain to them what it represents.
And the equally important meeting is the meeting the applicant had at the fire department. It's all.
So, and then in that, what you send him, in addition to the phone call that Chris Mealy, you may indicate that you're seeking a meeting with him to go through this in detail. Either this week or next
Yeah,
week.
it'll be a follow-up to the calls that we've made to.
Okay, so I suspect that it won't happen till next week. This is Monday or almost into Tuesday. I'm sure he has a lot on his plate.
Well, if we happen to see his truck, they're on their way back. Tonight, we might stop.
What do you think? He sleeps in his truck? I'm sure he's home. Or on the road or something. At a fire, at an event. Okay. Does the board have any comments? Haven't seen all these documents.
You might have comments.
Sorry.
You
Jen?
go first. I have a few minor comments.
Okay, go ahead.
So on the site plans,
Yes.
note 30. Is something like, if a thermal incident occurs, the area that is damaged will be covered with the target remediation shall be performed as needed. Can you just clarify pursuant to whatever standards apply? Or hazardous materials remediations required to apply or something? It just says as needed, but it doesn't clarify what that means.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, is
Yes.
it, if it's hazardous materials, there's usually like standards that go along with whatever they're remediating. That was the only comment I have on
Okay.
site plan.
And Jen, I think it was you who had asked for the risk assessment. It's in there.
Yeah, and I reviewed that. I really appreciated that because that's. I don't know if everybody reviewed it, but it made it much easier to understand. And there were a few categories, I don't have it open in front of me, there were a few categories that were listed as moderate, I wanna say. But which like piqued my interest, but it was moderate because the outcome was so significant, so it was still a very, very low likelihood of occurring.
Right, but it
But
was,
it was elevated to moderate only because of the consequence, so to speak, so. It wasn't, to me, that seemed.
yeah, it was a little bit of a tough read. But if anybody
So,
is interested in a thing that's somewhat tough read, it's the risk assessment. It's in the document that was sent with 9 or 10 other documents.
I thought it was very clearly explained how you went through the process of the different guardrails and you're shaking your head. It was good, I really liked it, yeah.
Sorry, you had
It was really
comments?
helpful.
Yeah, I have a comments on, because too much material to read, but I kind of. Well. Decided to comment on quick response guide. It's. as I understand, so if there is a how do you call it, isolation area, and there is requirements 50 feet space if something happens to like a bus in abnormal condition. So if a bus is movable, you take it in that isolation area. But if a bus is not movable, so it seems to me you have to move adjacent buses within 50 feet. Is that how it's logically to follow? If bus is not movable because it's smoking, and your instruction says don't touch it, then you have to take other buses next to it and move them out. So that should be kind of explicitly said in your instruction.
The issue is the safety of the people who would have to go move those other buses then comes into equation. So if there's active flame smoke, they're not gonna be able to potentially get to the next two adjacent buses, the ones they can get to safely and at the direction of the incident commander, they would try to move those. So we can't direct an employee to move a bus next to a bus that's in an emergency situation in a thermal type of event.
Okay, then it's adjacent bus can be affected as well.
But we feel that the early detection system.
Right.
Will eliminate 99%.
It's in that situation, yeah, but we're gonna know and put it there.
Then you probably should elaborate a little bit in your quick response guide for fire department. Or maybe you can don't go in a bus, but you just attach something to and pull it up.
I guess what Surya is asking is the possibility that your early detection systems fail to detect buses on fire in the line, the line of 10, the line of 10. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be the one told to go get the other buses out of there. I'd hand in my resignation. But all the other buses that are not yet part of the conflagration, if that's what happens.
Well, if it's on fire, then it's an active incident, and so the incident commander, likely the fire department, would be directing what to do at that point in time, and we would follow those directions.
Right, but you need to say it explicitly in your quick response guide because you get.
Okay, no, it's a fair point. I'm just trying to get across. It's a fair.
So what you believe from a safety point of view, from your experience, is the thing to say, just say it in there.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah, we can do it.
Very. Anything else? Peter?
Did we ever get, and I apologize, I've been absent from a few meetings, but did we ever get notice from Central Hudson that they can provide power here? Has that ever been official? I know we asked.
Say that.
Yeah, Central Hudson, there's a document in there from Central Hudson, yeah.
Also, I did some Googling and Central Hudson, just FYI, has a website you can go to that shows the system. And it identifies corridors and their, how much, capacity they have. And the 209 corridor has lots of capacity. But there's some areas, there's interesting areas in the town that don't have any extra that would not be suitable, so it was kind of cool to look at.
Yeah, other question, so what is the story now with power line? Are you leaving did you meet CEO discussion? Was it
Power Cube.
Power Cube? Your control unit?
Where are we putting it, I think is the question.
Yeah.
What
was the plan?
We're hoping to put it in the setback. We're seeking a variance.
We're gonna seek a variance.
Yes.
If this is approved, we would then seek a variance.
So right now, the status of that is it's with the CEO,
It's
correct?
with the CEO as of last week. Stacy and Courtney were working with Heath directly to figure out the best plan forward. As to either is he going to allow it to be an accessory and approve it right off of that, or would we have to go through the CBA? So he hasn't responded formally.
Might not have to, yeah, that would be great.
We may not.
So the argument you're raising with him is that it's an accessory use, not the one that you had originally suggested, that it was a temporary structure, which was what you told us?
I'll recant that. I believe we indicated it as a temporary structure.
Okay.
All right, so what I'll do is I'll send a note to Stacy, obviously she's not here. First thing tomorrow to find out what the status of it is, because I know they met. And I didn't get a resolution for this meeting.
I mean,
But the
Well, what I what I suggested to the board at the last meeting was that we could proceed regardless of the zoning determination and ultimately with the goal at the end toward giving a conditional approval based on the zoning, and that way they're just offline on the other side, and that would not impede our flow. If the board, that's up to the board, but that's a way to continue this and let the zoning work itself out on the other end, as long as that's where they want to put it.
So I think the next,
That Central Hudson advised you to do that, it didn't.
Say that again.
The argument that Central Hudson Utility Company advised you to have that next to the transformer.
They indicated that as being the recommended spot.
We communicated that, they haven't made, the CEO had not made a decision yet if they accept that argument. We made that yes, this is, where such Hudson hasn't recommended to reduce the amount of cabling. Power flow, exactly.
so, just procedurally, the next step has to be to go back to the fire department and get their input. And then we'll see what that input is, and we'll ask for that in writing. And then I think it's time that we as a board make a decision, whatever way those discussions go. So the board will have to make a discussion. If those discussions are positive, fine. If they're not, the board is going to have to make a decision. I think it's appropriate unless there's something that was missed, and I don't believe that there was from all the comments that were gone through over these series of meetings. So we want to give the courtesy to the fire department to look at what we've done and see whether or not they can be supportive of it. So I think, again, procedurally, the next step, this is the 10th. My intent was not to have you on the agenda for the next meeting at the end of this month. That could change depending upon what the fire department says. And if that's the case, we could be in the position to then have the decision written and an eventual vote. We'll call it a conditional approval or no approval. It might be voted down. I don't know. For the early September. But that's all speculation on my part. Of all the pieces have to fall into place for that to happen. I do think that it's time that we move this to a written decision one way or the other, and then make our decision. Okay?
And that vote obviously would not take place tonight.
Oh, no. No.
Due to.
Well, due to the fact that I want to give the fire
department
department yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I made that clear.
No, we appreciate that. We appreciate your, the understanding of.
I was hoping they would come tonight, but I understand what,
So just so I'm clear, so. And I know, I'm interpreting this, so probably not on the 8:31 agenda unless something changes and possibly on the one after this.
Yeah, I've been telling everybody that you can't get on the 8:31 agenda because that's the meeting that we're gonna make a decision on Verizon.
Well, no, and actually,
Hopefully.
Mike was like, I'm not sure that's want to be.
So I don't know that you want to be.
So that's what I.
Unless we're the first ones.
Get rid of us in a nice way, and then, I don't know.
You might save us as the second one, you know?
Yeah.
I think the chairman's gonna reply with, hear me out.
I'm bringing Prozac for them. But, I believe if the board disagrees, I believe we have enough information to make a decision. With the absence of the fire department, that's the last remaining piece weighing in. The issue with zoning and all that, Dave is right. You can get your conditional approval. Subject to all these other things from the zoning perspective.
So early September, what's the first?
14.
The 14th.
Right.
That's the first meeting.
Sorry?
Yeah, the way the dates work out.
Because Labor Day is the second.
Labor Day is just, yeah.
That's right.
And only reason we cannot do it on 31st, provided the fire department approves it because of Verizon. We don't want to have too many students.
I don't want a whole bunch of things on that agenda, but I could change my mind, right? I'll let you know.
Right, so.
The funding and.
I'll stay till midnight, but I want to be.
I still I would consider it, to be honest. I think we owe it to the applicant. We heard from the public today.
Yeah.
We have federal funding. If we could squeeze it in, I think it would be a good thing.
We have, what I didn't tell you is that I am gonna put Towpath Road on the agenda just to catch the board up at the end of August at the same meeting as Verizon.
Can we switch them out?
So
shouldn't stop us.
this would be a third item on the agenda.
I still. I would
put towpath to September, this, I think, with the federal funding,
I really would strongly recommend that.
Okay.
Yeah.
really, I
Yeah.
mean,
All right, well, let's see.
I would really request that we do that.
I'll take note of it. As long as you guys are fine with being here late that night. That's fine.
Okay.
when haven't we? But I mean, what's the compelling?
Tonight, if we.
No,
Why did you say that?
Why, what is the compelling reason to put towpath on the agenda? Have they been asking?
Yeah, they've been asking to be on the agenda. They have just about everything in. I'm just waiting for Dave to do the write-up. He might be able to do it while he's on vacation. So that being the case, I'd like to be able to,
Yeah, I would.
I really do.
I'm thinking in okay.
Even
I'm thinking in
if
terms
there
of,
was a delay on their part.
I'm thinking in terms of getting
I'll give you that.
We own that.
a business project.
Like,
Okay,
build me it.
I can see that side. We'll see.
Okay, so we anticipate meeting with the fire department. Will there be a representative from the board there as well, or?
I'll
other than
definitely,
Peter?
I'll definitely be there.
Okay.
Peter has indicated he would prefer not to be part of that. Our engineers will be there. And I'll ask another member of the board. I'll send out a note saying, here's when the meeting is. I want one more meeting. First one to say yes is who's gonna be. So there'll be one more person that meeting.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
And then after that meeting, when will we know if we're on August 31st or September 14th?
Immediately thereafter.
When Rick tells us. When he tells us.
Okay, fair enough.
That's right,
Yep,
no, that's right.
yep, fair. Okay.
I'm not trying to hold you guys up. I just,
No, we appreciate everything that. you
there's
guys
a reality in getting. Dave and I are gonna be hard at work doing the Verizon decision. So getting a decision done for you guys for that same meeting or is no easy task.
See, make a kind of.
Yeah, we understand, fair enough.
I can't be any more blunt. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Most of which Dave is doing. You know, well, anyway, I'm not gonna tell you what.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, I will tell you, it takes. And Dave has kind of got it done, but it's been taking him hours. We list all the documents and I guess it's just part of. Some cases have been won on a document not being listed in the decision document, if you can believe it. The court has found against
Absolutely.
the finding. There you go. The lady knows. There's 400 documents that have to be listed and listed accurately as to date. What it's all about in the whole 9 yards. He started already to get that done. So just. Anyway. Anybody else?
I see it where you kind of, I forgot about it.
Chris,
Want to let you know.
yeah, Chris, tell me if I'm forgetting anything.
No, you're not. You're doing a fantastic job.
No, I'm not, but okay, thank you.
I did have two comments. Michael and I spoke earlier about delineation of the isolation area.
Right.
In the gravel area, just so that we have some sort of a means. And also when Michael spoke, they're probably gonna end up striping in the pavement area. Part of the isolation area that's not reflected on the plans. I would just ask that be reflected on the plans. And for the photometric plan, if you could just provide the dark sky compliant lights that you're going to be placing on the building. Just all the fixtures, so that we can. Right now, you're not showing any lighting on your photometric plan, so you have no lights in the front of the parking area. Yeah, I think it's area, so comply. I'd like to see some lighting in that front area and where you're realizing those light poles.
And Mike, you can aggregate all these additional changes in anticipation of a final map. You don't have to keep sending us copies.
Yeah, I'm just, no. Understood. We spoke earlier, and we clarified a few items and we think we're gonna remove the SW plan from the package.
Okay, anybody else?
And then the two other items that. Miss Caddy
Yeah,
brought up. We indicated to her that there is no lot expansion.
Oh, it's right.
We're sticking to the parcel size that we're on. And then in regards to electrical feeds, we're coming from the transport directly off that pole onto and into our power cube.
And that it's underground, so she will likely see no additional lines.
She indicated, well, I'm sorry,
No, that was,
she indicated the draw for the feed and obviously. Kevin-
yeah, she was, so she did, since she had a subsequent question, she said, will this impact the grid? And we
Right.
indicated, as Jennifer had indicated, this 209 corridor has an excess supply of electricity, so there's no harm there, and that we particularly charge after 9 o'clock at night when the grid is already at its lowest,
Okay.
less stress on it as well. So
I know-
you seem satisfied
I
with
think
that.
she was also the lady who in the past has complained about the lights, the bleeding of the lights on her property. Did she mention
She
that?
did not bring that up.
No, okay.
And we made sure she had our contact information and the location manager.
Okay.
So if there's an issue, she can stop by and see them. And we'll of course invite her to the open house we have.
With the elimination of the floodlights, I think it's gonna be a really benefit.
All right. Good. So the next,
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What are you guys doing with the other 5 buses? Are you getting those? Where are they going?
Well, yeah, I think at this point, we don't, I mean, we've landed on the 20, so, I think we might be giving those up unless we have something.
The school is looking at a couple of options with a couple of other finance organizations, but it looks doubtful that we'll be able to save those funds, so we would have to return this rebase EPA. It's unfortunate it's round 1, round 3, they allow us more flexibility on unused rebates, but round 1, they do not.
so you may not get the other 5 buses.
I would say it's unlikely that we'll be able to work that. And it's a finance issue for the school district. They would have to come up with how to pay for the infrastructure. They were looking at a microgrid, right, Paul, as a possible solution. And
Okay.
and I got the feeling that EPA is gonna say, sorry, unless you have a plan ready to go in the next few months, they're gonna ask for that money back.
Because we wouldn't have been able to put them on this thing.
On this side.
Oh, it's specifically because of site constraints? Or because of,
Well, if the problem is if we try to come up with a secondary site at the school. That's all, that's got a couple, challenging wings to it, including you have to redo all the infrastructure, so now you're doubling all the costs.
you may want to contact somebody at Ulster Proceeds, because I think they're building out EV charging. And there may be an ability to piggyback on some of that and reduce. Economic costs, like, economies of scale, but stuff. And does this use standard chargers?
Well, it's level 3, so it's not, what you see for cars. And that's part of the problem. I mean, one of the issues is Central Hudson and Iserta had a grant program, but it would only pay for 180 kilowatt chargers, and we don't need 180 kilowatt chargers. We're in the 30 range. So there's just some problems there. And the biggest one is that under round 1, the way EPA structured the money, we can't spend it however we want. 375 has to go to the bus.
Oh, I
And
see.
20 has to go to the infrastructure.
Earmarks within the.
And so I can get the bus for less than 375, but even if I got it for $200,000, I can't then say I can spend 100. The way it's structured, they made a mistake, they admitted it, they corrected that going forward. So we're limited. I don't have a lot of play. I've only got $20,000 per bus for infrastructure, so that's $100,000 to put toward infrastructure. And that's just not gonna, building a whole new system. I could add 5 more at our current location and make it work. I can't build a whole new system for $100,000.
All right, anybody else?
Was that where your question was pointed? Like, if
Yeah,
we can
yeah,
get 25 on this?
I was wondering, just thinking about practicality of electric buses and other school districts from what I read. What do you do about school trips and charging visiting buses if they're already and stuff like that to the school district?
So
How do you handle that?
we call them activity trips, the non-home to school, we generally use the fossil fuel fleet to cover those. We, rarely go 100% electric. And if we go 100%, it's because we're at a location that also serves other school districts that has fossil fuel. If, however those, However, we have started with our Canadian fleet, which we have the most experience with. We have started running activities with those. And what we do is our system, and it's on the tablet that the driver has, identifies all public chargers that are appropriate for that bus. Can also fit a bus to park at that charger. And then a link to see if that charger is operational. So we are looking to expand to some activity trips. They would be quite limited. I would imagine in this location, given its distance from kind of most other things, we would not be using the EVs for
Yeah,
activity.
if there's a local trip, you use them. If you're playing Syracuse in the football playoffs, then you're on a diesel, right? Or something like that is how it kind of unfolding.
We think with the next generation, we'll get greater range of buses and then be able to start doing
The
more.
range now, and it depends on on the air temperature, but what is it on average? 225, 250?
Well, it depends on the battery pack, right? So the small end, we've got 196 kilowatt hour battery pack from Bluebird. At the high end, which are these, are the IC 315 kilowatt hour battery packs. Those we can get about 200 miles out of on a normal day. Really cold days, you're gonna drop into the 180, 190 range. Same for really, really hot days.
Okay, all right, so next steps. Chris, you're gonna send this package to the fire department. All right, and you're also going to get the meeting going and then alert us to the, okay. And that's,
May I ask one question before, on that meeting with the fire? Depending on schedule, can we do some of that virtual so some of our team members cannot?
yeah, I don't see why not, sure.
Thank you.
I'm promising that we probably, I don't probably have to use the computer here at the office for Pat.
Yes.
Can Pat do stuff virtually? You know, if he's,
I think so. I think we've done it.
he's done it?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we ought to be able to accomplish that.
Yeah, and we'll do.
We'll do our best to get people here, but just in
Kevin,
case.
Yeah, Evan can't.
Okay.
Yeah, but just in case.
I think it's very valuable, the face-to-face.
It is,
We agree, just timing, sometimes timing, if you say, hey, we're gonna meet Thursday, well, I can't do Thursday, you know.
So they, just from my own understanding at the fire department, they have like a screen similar to what you have here.
No,
That,
they have a projection, but you're probably doing it on a computer.
okay.
What I think would be helpful, for probably for all of us is whoever is, you know, if. You could offer up a few alternatives, like, hey, here are 3 days, because then we can all look and be like,
Right.
bam, that's the one that wins for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I can always bring my laptop there and set it up as a team.
That's
Yeah,
probably
we'll try to be live. Depending on what the availability is, so if it's a couple days, we'll make it work, and if one of us can't make it or.
And I'm also, I'm just thinking James or.
Yeah, James. or-
We'll sort it out.
Yeah, that's our biggest challenge, and then it'll be right here.
And I appreciate the board's desire to get this resolved, so. I agree.
We appreciate that as well.
Yeah, really.
Alrighty,
You guys want to talk for 3 more hours?
No, we're good. Thanks.
We appreciate you all for.
actually, we are gonna be talking, and it depends on how long the board talks. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda. Next item on the agenda is, and Chris, you don't need to stay. Kenneth, you wanna give us something? The next item on the agenda is to talk about the proposal from the town board. They would like our input regarding, food trucks. Does everybody have, the documents?
You want me for that? I have not.
No, I don't think we need you.
I think so either.
I'm gonna talk taco truck. You sure you wanna go?
Taco truck?
Taco truck.
Yeah. Who's the applicant who was here like a year ago to put in down up there?
Well, that was Meadow Lakes.
Yeah.
Meadow Lakes.
You missed them.
This guy, this like, look. So at this point, I don't know you and, right?
No.
I just
I'll
gotta
catch up with you.
Together from.
I'll catch up with you later. This project, but
For student.
yeah.
But, Oh, right, we took on that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so, in your agenda that Stacy sent out, you have access to the documents. I know Jen sent me some comments. And a couple of you spoke to me privately about your thoughts towards food trucks. And I don't think it does too much good for me to go to read the whole thing. You don't want me to read it, do you?
No.
You know what's out there? There's a whole bunch of heretofores and wherefores that the town is proposing in the new code, ranging from, or I guess essentially there'll be two kinds of permits. One is going to be a seasonal permit, which goes for 9 months, and then there'll be what I'll call a daily permit. And there are limitations in terms of how many times a particular lot can have a truck parked there that is either on a daily basis or on a seasonal basis. So there are some rules around that. There's some rules around how far it can or can't be from a restaurant, the front door of a restaurant. There's some parking regs. I think it was at least 4 spots, if I remember. And those spots, if it's being parked in a restaurant spot, it can't interfere with whatever the required amount of parking was to begin with for the restaurant. So if the restaurant has 100 spots and that's it, the food truck can't borrow 4 of those spots. There has to be another 4 spots available.
Good evening, Mr. Gordon.
In order to make it work. So whatever the requirement is, it can't be interfered with by the food truck. So does anybody have any comments,
I do.
questions? And Michael just happens to be here, so he could probably answer. He can answer probably some questions we may have that I don't have the answers to. Go ahead, Helena.
So, local law X, I believe it says it was 82-7 exceptions, and it says special event. And it said, they could, if you were having a private event and you were using a food truck as a caterer, they would need a permit. So that to me, do caterers require, if you're having 200 people and you're catering for 200 people, does a caterer need a permit? Here you might, instead of having a caterer, you want to cater with having a food truck, no sales. Yet it's, I believe it was 82-7A under special events, and it says they need to get a 1-day permit. I don't know if that's equitable, if that's fair.
And the lack of equity, explain the lack of equity.
Do caterers who come in to cater an event of 200 people.
Right.
Do they need a permit? I don't
Currently,
think they do.
I don't believe they do.
Right, so if I want to cater 200 people by having a food truck, now I have to, or the caterer has to incur the cost. Doesn't seem.
I don't have an answer to that.
I know, it's just,
justify-
it's just something that struck me, I'm just.
If I was putting myself in the shoes of the code enforcement, or whatever, I'd say, well, yeah, it's a food truck. Caterer comes in with their truck, they unload everything, they put it, set it up in the backyard, they do their thing. This is a food truck that's gonna be parked on a property in a residential area, gonna be parked there for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, and people queuing up to the food truck. But no, they don't need a permit for.
Right, and some caterers have outdoor kitchens and things of that nature, and so it just doesn't.
So are you suggesting that the food truck doesn't need a permit?
For a catered event without sales,
I tend to agree with you. That's a smart observation. I didn't think about that.
yeah, under the special events, it doesn't seem equitable.
You're right.
You know, and as somebody who has, done events, people have looked into caterers could be more expensive. Getting or doing it yourself is very difficult. It should be, the rules should apply for both. Right, so,
Okay,
sorry.
everybody have a
sense.
positive sense to that.
That's a good point. I mean,
I mean,
because he could cater with a food truck.
yeah, I mean, if you were having sales, I understand that. And I know people that have catered with food trucks because you know, having big events, shoots, those kind of events, they have looked into the food trucks. So it should be this, I think for special events on private property, it should be the same.
Okay.
Too
Either
much-
do it for both or do it for none.
Correct.
Okay.
And then the only other thing that I caught was on 82-4, I think that was local law wide. It was mentioning allowed in the zoning districts. And I'm wondering, should we spell out in parentheses, the next sentence should identify those zoning districts, so you don't have to cross.
They do.
reference.
In the other, there were two.
Right, one was X and I think one was Y, and I think it was
Can
80.
I make a suggestion? Should we not do that? Because I've been on the other side of the table where I'm trying to follow town codes and they'll update one side of it and then they don't update the other.
Okay.
So then they say two different things. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I like to
yes,
have it
it
in
was
one
just
place, have it.
stream of consciousness as I
Yeah.
was reviewing those were the.
Well, I'll let the attorneys for the town
But
figure out how
I
to.
can't tell you how many times I've gone to a town
But-
and they updated one part of the code and not the other,
Right.
and it conflicts and you're like, I don't.
Yeah, when I see no, you know, allowed in the zoning districts which allow food
So
trucks.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It should be,
So
you know, it
if
should
I
just
understand-
spell that out, but if it's so you don't have to cross-reference.
So if I understand the way they structured this, they're setting up a section called 82, whatever. So it has nothing to do with 140 dash or 125 dash. And then they're also making changes in 140 in the zoning code to indicate what zones would be allowed to have food trucks present. So they're proposing changes to that
Right.
too. They're putting in both definitions and in the schedule of uses, that chart,
Yep,
they're updating the schedule of uses, and that's part of zoning code
I was just
140.
looking at one shot.
So,
That's all.
I understand, but it does make sense to put it in the schedule of uses too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because these guys being
Yeah.
the building department, that's what they use. is-
Yeah.
So it has to be in both places.
Okay, that's all.
But you're
The real-
advocating
My
for,
big point was.
put it in 82.4 as well.
Okay,
Is that what you're advocating for? The
I
zone-
was saying, and 82-4, I think it was item E, I just put a note, spell out the zoning districts which would allow food trucks. Is it required? It was just a thought,
Okay, I'll put it in there.
but what I really feel somewhat more strongly about is the special events.
Okay.
Did you read the exceptions in here?
82-7,
Yeah,
I thought I did.
yeah.
Did I catch something? Wait,
No, it just said that you can request food trucks, cater special events.
but they're allowed to they have to get a permit for one day.
Right.
Right, and if the caterer doesn't have to get a permit. And they have outdoor kitchens and outdoor whatever.
Right.
I don't,
I don't see the difference, yeah.
yeah. That's just what struck me.
Rick, I didn't have time to read it, but what comes to me is, so the food truck would be allowed or not allowed in R3, for example?
Food truck will be allowed,
R3, AR3?
AB3.
Okay,
Right,
what about,
agricultural business.
what about B&B in my area, for example?
All right, so food trucks would be allowed in B, which is business, H, which is Hamlet, and AB3, which is agricultural business. It would not be permitted in any of the other zones.
So what about B&B with a barn when they have a special events? They wouldn't be able to bring a food truck?
You asked about a B and B?
Yeah,
Yeah, what zone is it?
R3,
R3, it says it wouldn't be allowed.
so they wouldn't be able to bring.
But we don't have R3 anymore.
AR3 now.
AR,
Yeah.
But it might qualify under the special event exception
Okay.
yeah.
for a day.
Okay, because they have a food truck in the past, they were using food truck.
I think Peter's correct that it would be allowed under the special exception.
For one day.
Right, but they
But they
still
need to
would have to
they
get.
need to get permit.
They did get a daily permit, yeah.
And is there a fee associated with
I
it?
assume so, but the fees that.
So, you know, then that pushes business to the caterers, not the food truck.
So that's.
The, okay,
That's just how I see it.
Jen?
You can go, Hans. I
No,
have a few
I
things. I'll bring
I
up.
go from the perspective of someone who has a restaurant. Actually, our model is to collaborate a lot with food trucks. Because it's kind of as a pop-up version, or it becomes wanna relieve the kitchen for a day. So for us, it is important that we have the ability to do that and to do it easily. And I also want to take into consideration that these food trucks operate on a very, very low margin, and to put more regulation and more requirements on them, I don't think this is the intention of what we should pursue.
So you're for less
I
regulation?
would, it should be a very simple approval process, not costly and quickly to do.
Okay.
Secondly, what I have a lot of, and secondly is the town of Walsing doesn't have any regulations, as I learned. So basically, this law would put us into a disadvantage.
Right.
Now it's the Flying Goose, which has food trucks every week in front of them, or Mill and Main, which is also in Kerns and the town of Walsing. So it really gives us a disadvantage. The third thing, which I find really, really concerning, is basically there. It says that proposed setbacks must be under the current zoning. For example, that would practically mean that Rough Cut cannot have any food trucks because it's too near to the entrance to our restaurant.
I thought it said with the setbacks, the back and side setbacks are the same.
It wouldn't work.
Front setback
We checked it.
is only 5 feet as
I
opposed to.
didn't read that, so.
It says in the permitted commercial event venues, which legally established commercial restaurant, brewery, cider, distillery. Setbacks, number 3, the vehicle must comply with the front, side, and rear setbacks required for the primary business's zoning district. And it also says that the food and citing, food trucks must be cited in a manner that does not obstruct, impede, or block designated emergency access routes, fire lanes, fire hydrants.
I read somewhere that it was 5 feet for the front, but
That's what it is. I mean, it's our special setup and we have
Okay.
mixed existing non-conform.
so there's a lot there. And you said you were gonna write when you
Yeah,
talk
I
to me.
did.
You're gonna
The
send me,
The third thing is where we are very concerned about is that there's a requirement for additional parking spots. And it says under D4 here, you need to have a capacity plan approved by the planning board. Which I find.
Where are you reading from?
I'm missing
What
that.
section you got that from?
It is-
Which one?
It's under D4.
Give me 827,
82.7?
82, under exemptions?
No, it's under, I have to find it again.
Is it the D4?
D4,
D4.
yeah, D4.
In the local law, why?
Parking constraints.
Correct, that's.
The hosting venue must demonstrate that the placement of food truck does not displace or reduce the site's available parking. That makes sense, below the minimum required, blah, 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 unless alternative shared parking or a capacity plan has been previously approved by the planning board.
That doesn't
So I
make
think
any
what they're
sense to
saying
me.
is,
Basically,
you
I mean,
can't-
then I have to go to the plan, I have to,
no, you only have to go to the planning board. If you have enough, if there's enough parking. At Court Social, we told them they had to have X number of spaces. Right? If they wanted to have a food truck there, should they want to have a food truck? They've got to have the required number of spaces for a food truck. But can't eat into what we already approved as part of the planning board function. If they still want to do it, they could come back to us and get us to make a shared parking arrangement. So if, I know it gets convoluted, if they're eating into what the approved parking was for a facility, like Accord Social, let's say, if it's eating into that, they can't do it. They have to come back here and get us to make some sort of exception.
that's what would be.
Well, they're saying that because we gave a number, which we thought through, and we said, this is the number, let's just make believe it's 70 cars. We took quite a bit of time coming up with that number, and I think in Accord Social's case, we even said you could make them smaller, right? So all they're saying, out of respect for what the planning board already did, you can't suck up some of those spaces for a food truck. However, if you want to, you gotta come back here and essentially get a exception made.
But but they're gonna use the same clients, every business has to come to planning board.
So you don't think that they should come?
No, they give their space to food truck. Serving is essentially the same people who would, instead of going to restaurant, they probably, which is not very unlikely. They would do that, but if something additional special food, but it's essentially gonna be the same people who may go in a restaurant and then go to that food truck to get some unusual meal, something like that. And make those owners of the business wait for planning board meeting every 2 weeks or sometimes not.
And then if you can get on the agenda.
Huh?
Yeah, and then you gotta wait on the agenda.
It's something really bureaucratic.
You can't,
I just.
it's like the soup Nazi.
I really think it's an unnecessary law and it
Okay.
really.
Well,
hurts the business.
Hans, you,
But I do have a question, 'cause my initial reaction when I opened it was why? So what issue is this solving? Is there an issue that we're having with food trucks?
oh, Michael, do you wanna,
Do you know?
Yeah.
why are we doing
What
this?
is the genesis of?
Because I was trying to understand, my comments are relevant to the problem we're trying to solve, right? So what's the?
Well, I don't want to opine as a board member, but the issue was that someone came forward wanting to have a food truck. It's not currently in the code,
Okay.
so the town board could allow that use. If I'm stating this correctly, could approve that as a use not considered. If we were to approve it as use not considered, it becomes an open use across the board within that district that we approve it. So if we approve it as a use not considered in business, then it becomes within the business district, people can do food trucks. The thought was, and the discussion that the board had was, this should be something that is easier for people to do. That is a simple process of going to the building department and not have to come to the planning board to do. But to do that, we should set standards and rules so that we don't run into unintended consequences and suddenly there's food trucks where it complicates traffic or other things. So we said, let's put it into the zoning code so that there's something for the building department when somebody comes in and says, I want to do a food truck. They have a set of standards they can look at, and then it's a simple approval process.
That makes sense. So then my comment would be, let's approve it, require a permit. Don't put restrictions and see if there are issues, because we're a small town. I don't think this is gonna be a big problem. I would be inclined to say, here's $80, get a permit, have fun, and see what happens. And if there are issues, then we can tailor the code to actually address the problems that we're having in the town, whatever those may be. I don't know what they may be. It could be that this is spot on, and a year from now, we're like, oh my gosh, we should have just done it back then. Or we might find that it's a non-issue and people love eating their tacos and Jamaican food and their, whatever, that they have a great time.
I know there was one issue and
Was there an issue
it
specific?
was right here in Accord where there was the fish truck, I forget the name of the
Yeah. Montauk Pet Catch.
Montauk, yeah, they wanted to park, they were parking in front of or in the parking lot of a proprietor in Accord. And it created some consternation on the part of some of the residents. And the building department didn't want to get involved, They looked at it and said, well, is this an accessory use? It wasn't listed as an accessory use. They talked to me, may have been you and me, Peter, at one point in time. I said, I don't know. I said, why don't you try it and see if you get slapped with a violation? But that's not necessarily the way to look at it either. So in that case, I mean, if you know the size of that parking lot over there, and many of the parking lots, they're really small.
Yeah.
And so, do you need to have some standards to say, well, yeah, you could do it here, but you can't do it here because you only got 5 parking spots to begin with. How are you going to squeeze in a food truck? On the other hand, if you can make it work, who the heck cares? I think the biggest concern in some situations is, do you have 3, 4, 5, 10 cars lined up on the street, parked, they run in and get there, whatever they have to get, and then they come out. So you've got these cars parked on the street where there's not supposed to be any parking because they're small streets anyway. I'm exaggerating, but that's an example of.
Yeah, that was.
Understand the need, I mean, and Mike, you gave a great.
Yeah, I thought that was a good
explanation of
explanation.
why we need it. Because if you give one approval, then it's a blanket approval, which I didn't know that's how it works, but.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. It's just, I think we just have to tweak things. And the one thing I'm back, I'm looking at the special event. And I think that they also mentioned they can't have more than 2 events a year. So let's say I'm having a lot of parties and I want to cater, again, bringing it down to the cater. So we need to be a little bit more specific because the last line,
Which section are you looking at?
82.7A, the last line, it says, in such cases, sales shall be limited to event attendees only. So there should be some kind of a distinction between people going up and purchasing versus using a food truck for catering. I might be getting into the weeds now.
A little bit.
My
But
concern
think-
is that it really disadvantages the food trucks and everybody goes the easier route for catering and puts like a little tent up. Because that doesn't require a permit, so. And actually, it's an easy way to circumvent this new law, because I just put like.
We just put a
and
tent up?
Put a tent out, so. I just think, my hope is.
That one's gonna get them a violation from the building department, because putting a tent up like that.
On private property?
On private property.
Yeah, let's say, I mean.
Selling to the public?
I invite them. Oh,
Selling to the public.
About catering or sales? Yeah, I think if you're gonna use a food truck for catering, I don't think it should be subject to.
Or sales though.
I
don't think it's a big difference. For
Okay, so let's do that.
But
Any other
anyway.
comments?
I mean, I sent Rick my comments. I think that it should be scaled, just generally speaking, I think it should be scaled back. I think and I'm coming from the perspective of somebody who works in a massive bureaucracy and all we do is make more rules to fix minor issues. And it's like.
And then who enforces those rules?
Well, so.
And the cost of
so-
enforcing.
So what ends up happening is like something happens and now we have to make a rule about it. And then it just starts layering on itself to where it just becomes.
I guess I could have a philosophical
Thank you.
discussion with you about, is it the case that people who do things at the spur of the moment, are they reasonable and do they care about their neighbors? The answer to that is sometimes, but a lot of times they don't. So if you say you can kind of do whatever you want and let's just hope it works out, you do have some people who could give a hoot whether it impacts traffic, impacts anybody else. And so you try to at least have some semblance of rules, so it's not a free-for-all.
So.
So
I
this
think-
was, this is a semblance of rules.
I
So I don't see where it's overwhelming bureaucracy.
It's about setbacks.
I mean, why don't we not have a planning board? Just let everybody,
That's a completely different story. I disagree.
Okay, so
with it.
I'll
I
tell you
disagree.
guys what my comments were.
Okay.
So my comments were on citing food trucks shall be located a minimum of 150 feet from main entrance to any restaurant. My comment was consider decreasing the setback or adding text to clarify if the food truck is associated with restaurant, that doesn't apply.
Right.
Because I think the setback isn't intended, so you don't have a food truck pull up next to a restaurant. and
Compete with the
that.
restaurant.
But if the restaurant, if Arrowwood is inviting food trucks, they shouldn't have to observe the setback. The next one was number and size of food trucks. A maximum of 3 food trucks shall be permitted per lot at any one time. I think that should be increased. I think if people want to have like pop-up food festivals or something like that, and I don't know, I don't see I don't.
so that might be so, but then you get into, well, how big does a lot have to be to have 10 food trucks on it?
I'm not gonna opine on that. I think maybe it's based, this is where we get.
That's why you need rules.
Does the town of Rochester support 10, 20 food trucks showing up? I don't
I
see
mean,
that
how many
happening.
food trucks do we have?
So that.
I don't
was-
know, I've only seen 2.
It's really not an issue.
Yeah, I'm talking about quantity. I don't think that there should be, I mean, if you're gonna put a capacity on it.
I mean, honestly, it's such.
I don't think so.
As
I think we're-
a proprietor,
Painting
if you can fit them there, and it's for property.
The other one, the other comment was under the same 82-5, C, the maximum number of permits that may be issued. And outstanding for any lot per year shall be 1 seasonal and 3 daily, and I think the seasonal should be increased. I think
To
people
one.
should have more than 1 food.
To one.
truck. I said 3, but that's kind of arbitrary. I mean, all this feels a little arbitrary, but like 3, so that you could have 3. I mean, the whole thing, in my opinion, that's great about the trucks is you can get variety. It's fun when there's a few and you can go and you can try different things. Having 1 is like fine, but I don't think it has the same draw if it's limited to only 1. And that the whole fun of it is that you get a, I mean, like the farmer's market in Kingston, it's fun, there's a bunch of different food trucks there, you can go try different things. The other one was operations. Food truck operators must demonstrate a minimum of 4 parking spaces on the lot. And then there's language in there, parentheticals, or on an immediately adjacent lot with owner permission. And my comment is, we may want to modify the text in 140 to clarify that adjacent parcels are acceptable. And then clarify who gets the permit. If the parking is on an adjacent parcel, how does that fold into the permit? Because it's unclear how that would be reviewed. Is it a note that you bring in when you get your permit? I don't know how that's verified. Does that make sense? Because the text just isn't clear. And then it says no lighting is permitted except for lighting that's used within the food truck. And I suggested adding, or for outside seating, because it permits outside seating. So this way you can have some lighting inside to make food, but you could also have lighting at the table where people might be eating. And then in chapter 140, it's permitted as an accessory use. There's text there. I suggested adding farmers markets to the list because it's not adding farmers markets to the list because it's not currently included. That could be relevant. And then amending to include like pop-up commercial events because that's also not explicitly.
So here's what I'm gonna do, because I don't think we're gonna come to any consensus as to recommendations. Sounds like some of us, let's just see what happens, and others, you know, you do need some kind of order because invariably you hear people complaining about, yeah, I don't want to see that in my neighborhood, and so they run to the building department, the building department says, no, I'm just gonna shut it down because they're not supposed to have it because there's no rules for regarding it, so let's make some rules. So I understand. The one here in town, he was pretty much shut down because there were no rules. What else could they do? Got a complaint from a neighbor. They have to respond to it. It's not in the code anywhere, so they couldn't make an interpretation. They couldn't stretch it long enough, so they closed it down. Wouldn't it be better to have some way of allowing something like that? If in fact, the town board, who's responsible for what things look like and how things operate, have some sort of rules. So I think that's what was probably prompting this. But I know I'm not going to convince everybody to that because in Switzerland, they have no rules and they have, you know, they have great business and they have a better index when it comes to freedom of business and all this other kind of stuff.
I mean, it's really regulation costs money.
Right.
Well, it does.
It
And the
impacts
lack of
business,
regulation creates chaos.
but not if you layer it and layer it and layer it. That's what we do in this.
This is meant to be some sort of tiny itsy bitsy layering to at least provide those people inside there with something to work with.
Okay, well, it doesn't have.
All right, so here's what I'm gonna, here's what I'm gonna,
Be as written, we can.
here's what I'm gonna do. How about I do this?
Okay.
Send me your comments and I'm gonna pack them all together and just say, on this one, we can't come to a consensus. We trust you, do what you think is best. However, there's considerable, let's not over-regulate something that is fun.
Well, I think we could step back and just say, do you guys agree we should have food trucks here?
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah,
So
if
we
a
can
private
agree
wants to
on
do it.
that, but then there are some specific things that people have questions about that could be modified in the legislation. About the permit fee. for
Yeah, there should,
catering,
or there
things
should be an
like that.
exception for food trucks used as caterers.
But I think all in all, I think it's a good thing, but I also agree that I wouldn't want my neighbor to have a food truck every weekend.
Yeah.
Running a little generator until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. Yeah.
They have to comply with the noise code and there's no, one of the first things I ran to check is to see
I
if they could
think
have
the
like.
point that he's
Is it what?
making is you need some sort of rules.
You need rules.
I get the rules,
But
I
when
get that, that's
I
part of the society here.
What was your statement? Very pleased that one of the things that was explicit in the code is that they're not allowed to make any, there's no loudspeakers or music allowed.
Right.
Which if you've ever lived in New York City, you know that the ice cream trucks are the bane of your existence in the summer, so I was happy.
You don't
that
like Mr. Softy's? You don't like the jingle from Mr. Softy? I love that.
Now we know how to get to Jen.
Safe.
All right,
Nice green truck is coming.
so I got written comments from Jen, I invite
I'll
written
send
comments.
you.
I promise you,
have one or two as you.
you will have some fun with this when I send it to the town board, but the sense I'm getting is let's encourage it with some modicum of rules that
And maybe we should. have a
respects
food
the
truck
neighbors, let's put it
some
that
night.
way.
We can have a food truck here for planning board.
Cause, yeah, shoving food down my throat at 6
There's
o'clock.
a very good pizza truck at Tributary. They should come.
Okay,
But farmers allowed, right? The farmer allowed.
so Jen, thanks for your comments, and I'll get those out. I want yours because, and
And
Helena,
I'll just get, yeah, so one or two.
and then I'll copy you all on it when I send it to.
Great, thank you.
I hope you enjoy, I hope you enjoy what I've read.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
I make a motion to, can I make a motion?
Hang on one second, I will try to.
Do we need to do the minutes?
We've already done
We
it.
did,
already
We
did
did
it.
the minutes.
we did. I had to think for a second, we did them. I will try to get these guys on for the 31st. I was just hedging.
I certainly appreciate it, but I think at this point. You know, early on in the process, I know I had a lot of safety questions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and I'm very confident now. And to risk the 10 million. I think we need to get them, even though they did admit to me, because you know, when I met with Michael Klein, I said, so why did you wait? Why did you disappear for 6 months?
6 months, it was a year.
Whatever it was, and he said, well, because they didn't think. That they, you know, their legal didn't think they needed to go through this process and it cost them, but, you know.
That's what happened.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there was
That's
a,
what he told me when I had my site visit 2 weeks ago, is because, you know. It
but
wasn't
they're
like.
legal, they're referring to their legal from Ohio.
Correct.
You know, things are different in Ohio.
Correct, so, and they learned the lesson. And he did admit to me that going forward, it will help them ultimately. So anyway, as such, I just think that. You know, at their point with the federal government and funding, you know, they've been slashing all of that. We really should. Try and expedite this at this point. And can I also tell you, I had no idea there was no air conditioning on these buses.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I knew that, my kids take it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time,
But
but I figured they modernized.
How do we know electrical bus has air conditioning? Does it say anywhere?
Pardon?
How do we know that electrical bus will have air conditioning? Does it say?
That's what they said.
That's what they said, and they were
It's
saying
good,
tonight.
there's
And
no-
they have a little diesel motor on each bus that runs it.
They do.
Well,
I
they-
know.
they
Such
have
a-
a- they're gonna have
They're
a-
not running the air conditioning off the EV. They have a little diesel in there that runs the air
They
conditioning.
can get, no, heater,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
they're-
No, don't,
Yes.
just,
like,
But it's
like,
it's a baby.
some generator there.
I don't know, I took a bus for,
uh,
Maybe, I don't
I
know.
used to walk to and from school uphill each way, but I took a bus, I'm fine. I don't have, you know,
I mean,
I don't
I
have
grew
any
up in a country with
diseases.
this.
I don't know what they,
So it's like,
but anyway,
but I was,
What can I say?
Hope that's motion to adjourn.
go ahead, Jen.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'm gonna second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so don't forget, we got the meeting the 31st. I'll let you know real soon if I can get